Wednesday interview with HR, Thursday interview with the boss, Friday morning.
At this time, we will call the McHenry County hearing to order. The first motion is to continue the petition 22-045, and that would be going to what, the December 13th?
December 13th at 11 a.m.
Right, perfect. That brings us to the next petition, which would be 2022-044. That's a request for the variation. And we have Daniel Gilman. I'm assuming that might be you.
It is.
That's
Good morning.
Yes. Good morning. And is everyone who is going to be testifying today, they all signed in?
Yes.
Okay. And I would ask anyone who is going to make a comment or make a statement, they'd be, stand up and be sworn, please. You guys will say something, I'm assuming you will.
Me too.
You all promise to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, you swear to God?
I do.
Good.
Nice.
And Mr. Gilman, I'm the hearing officer, so I'll be conducting the hearing today. And I'm required to evaluate your application based on the evidence that's presented today and the comments that are presented. And based on what I hear today, I will either make a recommendation to approve your request, modify your request, or deny your request. There will be a record that will be made, so I'd ask you to keep your voice up. If there's a question that's asked of you, you have to answer audibly with a yes or no. You can't say mm-hmm or shake your head. And understand that after today's hearing, the staff would then prepare an ordinance which would then go to the county board. If I were to approve your request, you would only need a majority of the county board members in attendance at that meeting to approve it. If I disapprove your request today, you would then need a 3/4 vote for the county board members who are present at that point. It's a very simple hearing today, simple rules. You'll be treated with respect, and I ask you to do the same with others. You are under oath. You will testify under oath. We do not necessarily follow the strict rules of evidence. And if you wish to make a statement before or after the hearing, you certainly have that right. So can you tell me what you're hoping to do today?
So there's an existing structure on the property that I have recently purchased. And it's my intention to remodel the property. There's a restriction that states that there's a maximum of 900 square feet allowed for this. The existing building is already larger than that. And so I'm coming in for a variance because I could not work with the zoning department to let them understand that we're not improving, we're not enlarging this thing at all. The exterior remains the same. We're putting no additional burden on the property or the surrounding area.
Okay. Before we go any further, I would indicate that this is a request for a variation within the E-2V estate district to allow an ancillary dwelling unit to a maximum of 1,100 square feet instead of the maximum 900 square feet as allowed. The location of the property, it consists of 2.01 acres located on the south side of Hensel Road at its intersection with COTE Drive. Commoner Street address is 12419 Hensel Road, Huntley, Illinois, Township of Grafton. The tax ID or PIN number is 1805401-007. The current land use is designated single-family residential, and the adjacent land use to the north, south, and east would be single-family residential. To the west would be single-family residential and agricultural. The current zoning on the property is E2V estate with a variation for reduction in road frontage on adjacent PIN. The adjacent zoning to the north is E1 estate. To the south and the east would be E2V estate. To the west would be A1 agricultural. On the 2030 plan, this land or property is designated as agricultural. The municipal plans within 1.5 miles would be Crystal Lake, no designation, Lakewood, no designation, Huntley, single-family estate, 1+ acres. The property is improved with a 2-story brick and frame residence, frame shed, 1-story frame garage/office, acres of concrete, and asphalt driveway. There are no wetlands found on the property, nor is there a floodplain, nor is there a flood of record on the site. There are no zoning violations currently open on the property, and there is a pending permit regarding the ancillary dwelling unit. And when did you purchase the property?
We purchased it this year.
Okay, and what do you intend to do with it in terms of improvement?
I'm installing new interior wall panels in a different configuration than is already in existence. I will be replacing the existing flooring. I will be replacing the existing bathroom. And I will be updating the existing kitchen.
And is that for the purpose of creating a second dwelling unit?
It is for the purpose of creating a living area for a gentleman who lives with me right now.
Okay. And how many people are currently living in the main house or the main property?
There are 3.
And is there currently a hookup to the existing septic system?
There is not.
Okay, is there a washroom in the current ancillary building?
There is.
Okay, what is that hooked up to in terms of?
It is
the
draining
septic?
into a cesspit.
Okay, and what's going to happen if you turn this into a residence?
I will be filling in the cesspit and abandoning it. I'll be putting in a force main to a septic field that is on the northeast corner of the subject property. I've already applied with the health department with the septic system design, and that is pending approval on the condition of an existing abandoned well and the size of, I should say the thickness of the pipe that I'm using for the force main. Other than that, they've approved everything.
And the reason for the force main is you're somewhat going uphill, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, to the south of this property is a no septic line, and so I have no choice but to pump it uphill away from that no septic area.
It looks as though potentially 80% roughly of your property would be a septic restricted area, is that
Correct.
correct?
That is correct, and that's going to remain the same, that nothing's being changed about that.
Kim, can you tell me what the situation is regarding the application for the septic?
For the septic, I know that it has been applied for. We haven't received approval from the health department, but I believe it was for the septic replacement for the new septic for that structure.
I have a letter on my phone from the health department stating that the design has been approved pending 2 things. And one of them is the abandoned well, which has nothing to do with the septic application. The second is the pipe size. The septic designer had initially did it all in 2-inch PVC, which is extremely expensive and a waste of time. I'm going to be using the directional boring, so I do not disturb any of the ground. And I will be putting a pipe underground, approximately 310 feet.
Do you know roughly the square footage of the area that the septic can go into?
Do I know the square footage of the?
Right, roughly the dimensions?
I do not off the top of my head. I do know that we had plenty of room to work within it. So.
Where is the existing tank?
The existing tank is located just off the south end of the property. So as you're looking, if you're in that plan up there, you can see a concrete slab. It's on the back of the house where there's an L, and you can see the septic tank is indicated right there. And that currently serves the existing structure. We've been in that building already for close to 17 years. The tenants before us claimed that there was absolutely no problem with the septic system. So the existing one is fine, which was confirmed by the septic designer.
Okay, so I see kind of a triangular concrete pad, and then a little bit off to the right would be, looks like a septic. Is that where your
Yep.
tank is at?
Yeah, it says septic lid, that's where the tank's at.
Okay, what size is that tank, if you know?
I have no idea.
Is there any record as to when that tank was installed?
There's not.
And what is the age of the house?
It's an 18, probably, I'd say 1890s.
Okay.
It's been added onto, the original structure was added onto by the person that I bought it from.
Kim, do you have any idea as to when that tank was installed and what the size or dimension would be?
The only record that I was able to find was through the Grafton Township assessor, that they indicated the residence was constructed around 1930. So I don't know if that's just when their records began, if it was constructed before that, but we don't have any other records as far as septic after that.
Okay, when I read your report, it appears that staff doesn't have any problem with his request, is that correct?
Correct.
How did you factor in the existing septic and the additional usage?
So we knew that had to go through the health department for their approval. I believe you have 1 bedroom in the proposed structure, is that correct? 2 bedrooms. So we always put it to the health department to approve before we will release our permit. So that's handled through them separately, but we do have that pending building permit. So that will not be released until the health department approves that.
Okay, but will he be putting in a second septic tank? Or is he going to be utilizing the existing one?
That I don't know.
I can answer that. So the design we came up with was, if you see the subject property,
Yes.
so you see that there's a porch area right there, it just sticks out of on the right side of it. You can, there's a,
It's in the circle or the
in the back of the property, in the middle of that circle, in the back of the property, there's a sidewalk. And then you have a little porch right there, or it's like a little, for lack of better terms, a patio. So right in that location, I'm going to be installing 2 tanks. So the first tank will be a septic tank. So that's where the wastewater coming from the building will be modified by the bacteria. Then there's going to be an outlet pipe that will go into an additional tank, and that tank will serve as a lift station. There'll be a 2-inch or a 2-horsepower pump in there that will act as a force main that will carry it to the septic field. That tank cycles 270 gallons. So every time it gets up to 270, it'll push 270 gallons all at once up to the septic field for it to leach.
Okay. No, that's fine. I mean, my concern was if you were planning on using the existing tank and nobody knew what the size was, that would cause me some problems.
Yeah, we're not. The existing tank stays with the existing building, and that's it. We're not modifying it. We're not changing any of that.
And have you talked to any of your neighbors about what you intend to do?
I have not. My wife has. She's very neighborly. I am not. We posted a sign. Some people had asked some questions, and I've heard nothing personally from anybody. Now, she's talked with a few people, and there's some curiosity that there was no objections.
Kim, does the county not have kind of an objection normally to having a second dwelling unit on a property?
No, our ordinance, the Unified Development Ordinance, was actually modified in the last few years to include ancillary dwelling units as an allowable use with the limitation of the 900 square feet. So this is just asking for, an increase to that square footage.
Okay. It's asking for that increase, but it's not necessarily asking for an increase on the size of the structure. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this was pre-existing. Do you know what the reason why this building was ever constructed?
No, my research just found that it has been there since at least the early 1970s, but everything I could find through Grafton Township and through county records indicated that it was either used as an office, a garage, some type of accessory building.
So if we approve this today, but for some reason the health department did not, then this wouldn't go through, is that correct?
Not as a dwelling unit, correct.
Do you know when the health department might be making that decision?
I believe probably once you have provided the
It
information.
depends how long they work. I'm gonna see them today and correct both objections that they had.
Okay.
How are you currently getting water to the ancillary building?
There is a 1-inch, there's a 1/2-inch flexible line from the existing structure buried underground to the ancillary unit. That's how he was supplying water to it. That line leaks and it is not below frost, so I have huge problems with it. So I have to put in a new water line, which will be a 1-inch line, which I'll also bury in the ground to feed the building. So I'm gonna be upgrading the water system. The existing pump that I have is being checked out now, but it's been performing at around 10 or 7 gallons per minute to 12, depending on how the meters are working. But I need to be able to provide 5 gallons per minute for each dwelling, and the pump and system that I have in place will do that no problem. So I don't have to modify anything water-wise.
Can you highlight the existing well?
That's it right here?
Yep.
Okay, and we meet whatever requirements we have to in terms of separation from the septic field and the tank?
That would be reviewed by the health department, so that would be during their process of approving the septic.
Okay. And do you have any clue as to the depth of that well?
I do not, do
Do you have any? Okay. And I'm assuming, do we have a clue as to when the well was drilled?
Unfortunately, we do not.
Anything that, when you look at it, that might indicate the age? Is it your typical well?
Yeah, it's a standard wellhead casing. It's been around for quite a long time, but to say is it 20 years old, is it 4 years old, there's no way.
But it does have the above-ground casing?
It has the above ground casing and it is properly sealed and capped.
Okay. Right. There are some standards that have to be considered. Some of them are explicable, some are less. Isn't it true that the particular surrounding shape or topographical condition of the specific property involved would result in a particular hardship upon you, the owner, as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out? Isn't that true? Kind of a leading question. I'm suggesting.
It sure is.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
You might want to say yes.
Yes.
Okay. And really what you have is a building that was previously constructed not by you and just happens to be 200 square feet larger than what the county would allow for what you're hoping to do.
That's correct.
And isn't it true that the conditions upon which the application for a variation are unique to the property for which the variation is sought and are not generally applicable to other property within the same zoning district? Isn't that true?
That is true.
And to the south of you is a subdivision, is it not?
Yes.
And that's more
Actually, it's to the north, isn't it?
to the north, okay.
Yeah, the Collins Code.
And in the immediate vicinity, are there any other similar properties that have a secondary ancillary structure that could be used as a dwelling unit?
Yes. Yeah, the property immediately to the west of us.
Okay. So your situation is not necessarily unique, and there are other properties that are somewhat similar, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to increase the monetary gain realized from the property.
That is true. It is not.
And the alleged difficulty or hardship is caused by the ordinance and has not been created by you, the owner of the property, is that correct?
That's correct.
Because you didn't construct either building, either the ancillary building or the existing residence, correct?
That is correct.
And isn't it also true that the granting of the variation will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood in which the property is located?
That is correct.
And isn't it also true that the proposed variation will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, or substantially increase the congestion in the public streets, or increase the danger of fire, or endanger the public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values within the adjacent neighborhood. Isn't that true?
It is true.
And what you're hoping to do is to increase the value of your property, which would to some extent benefit your neighbors, correct?
Yes,
And adding one more resident to this lot is not going to horribly increase the amount of traffic on the road, will it?
it will not.
And because the building is currently there, it's not going to have any change on the airflow or the supply of light to either your property or other properties, is that correct?
That is correct.
And is it also true that the granting of the variation requested will not confer on the applicant, that's you, any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other land or structure of the same zoning district? Isn't that true?
That is true.
If other people had a similar situation, made a similar request, would you agree or disagree with their request?
I would agree with it.
Is there anything else that you wish to say at this point?
Not at this time.
I'm assuming we have some neighbors present.
Yes,
Can you folks identify yourself for the record?
sure. I am Richard Marzek. I have the property that's immediately east and immediately south of the Gilman property. And I live there with my wife.
Okay. And how many acres do you own?
5.01 acres,
And how long have you lived there?
9 years.
And have you talked to either the petitioner or his wife about what they were hoping to do?
Have not?
Okay. And having heard what you've heard so far today, what is your position regarding the request?
I am opposed, my wife and I are opposed to this request. All of the properties in our subdivision and neighboring subdivisions are 5 acre or more parcels. The Gilman property is 2 acres. There's no rental housing units in our subdivision or neighboring subdivisions that I'm aware of that are located on 5 acre parcels, let alone a 2 acre parcel. The Ketchmark subdivision covenants, conditions, and restrictions state in Article 2D, quote, living unit shall mean and refer to any portion of a structure situated upon the property designated for occupancy by a single family, end of quote. Article 3, Section 1, 3.01 states temporary structure, no trailer, mobile home, recreational vehicle, tent, shack, or other structure, and no temporary building or structure of any kind shall be used for a residence, either temporary or permanent, end of quote. The Gilmans are proposing to modify an existing garage and workspace to a residential rental unit in addition to the permanent living structure on the 2 acres that they own. My wife and I are both opposed to granting a variation to the Gilman property to allow for an ancillary rental dwelling unit. My wife and I wish to enjoy our property and subdivision in the future with the covenants, conditions, restrictions in place when we purchased the property 9 years ago, without having a rental unit, another family, their friends, deliveries, etc., occupy a 2 acre parcel already occupied by the Gilmans adjacent to our property. There have been numerous times in the past where the Gilmans, their friends, acquaintances, deliveries, whatever, have encroached on our driveway to get to their property. It is connected, but it's not used, and this will just, in essence, bring more traffic to our driveway from the Gilmans or whoever may be visiting them. It's very unclear sometimes as to whose driveway is whose. We pay for the maintenance, myself and my neighbor pay for the maintenance on the driveway because we share it, and we do not want more people, deliveries, whatever, coming down our driveway. So my wife and I are both opposed to this particular variation.
Kim, can you go back to the screen that was before that?
This one?
The one that had that one. So is your property between the Linden Lane and the subject property?
My property is here
Right.
and all the way down here. And the property next to me is represented by my neighbor.
Well, I would not have guessed that. You do have an odd driveway.
I do, but we share a driveway
Right.
and have shared it for many years.
And I'm assuming that's typical map directions, north, south, east, and west.
Yeah.
So you are to the...
To the
what
east
you are.
and to the south.
Yeah, primarily to the south. How
Primarily.
far is your residence
The
from the...
residence is about halfway down the property, south.
Okay. Who is responsible for the creation of that lot?
Mr. Ketchmark,
Okay.
who lives just west of there, and that's why this subdivision is named the Ketchmark subdivision.
Can you also identify the various lots that are in the Ketchmark subdivision? Kim, do you know?
I believe it's just the 3 lots, correct?
If I could show you, it's easier to do that. This is the Gilman lot. This is me back here. And this part here is part of our driveway. And this is my neighbor right here. There's also a lot here, Lot 1, which is part of the subdivision, and Lot 2. So all of this is Ketchmark subdivision.
Do you own this portion of property?
Yes, I do. And the stated building is approximately right here.
And your neighbor's property on Lot 3, where would that be? The house?
The house is approximately where mine is.
Coming off this,
Yes, right over here.
what is the purpose of this?
I don't know. That was constructed before I moved in. There's a little shed here, and there's a basketball court.
That's our property.
Yeah.
And we're all the way down here.
Right.
I'm confused. What do you mean it's your property?
It's just a very long piece of property. Like Rick is here, we're here, and we own all of this down here.
Okay.
And we
So-
share a driveway. We mutually agreed when we bought to
I
pay
made
for
an-
expenses to the driveway for
I made an
ingress.
assumption when he said his wife that that might have been you, but that's not true.
I'm not
No.
the wife.
She's the neighbor. I love her like a wife.
You look like a very nice
She's
couple.
great. Gee, thanks.
All right.
Don't tell my wife that.
Okay, that makes more sense. So you own this,
Yeah, we own all the way down here. through
Okay.
here.
and how long have you owned this property?
Actually, we're original owners.
Okay.
and,
When would that have been?
First off, I just want to say, Dave,
Dan.
you're wonderful neighbors. I have no problem. Dan, this is not personal.
Of course it's not. You have some concerns and you're here to voice them, I totally get that.
And truthfully, your wife had mentioned that you were considering renting, which I didn't know you were going to change zoning and everything. And to me, we're not a multi-family.
Yeah, I don't have to change zoning.
Huh?
I don't have to change zoning. I can put this ancillary or use this ancillary within 900 feet. All I'm simply
Not
saying,
according to the covenants.
this is a different situation. All I'm saying is I want to use the entire building and not have to cut off a section because of the code, which I don't agree with because we're grandfathered in anyway and the code doesn't apply. But I decided to take this course of action instead of trying to fight the zoning department. So this is what the issue is. It's not about whether the building can be there or not. It's about how much of the interior space I can utilize as an ancillary residential structure.
Then why weren't we given the ability to state our opinion to the zoning people?
You are here. This is what this is.
Okay, if this.
This hearing is
You
it.
said this is not zoning.
No, this is zoning. Yeah,
Okay.
this is for a variance. And so when I was dealing with the zoning
You said a
department,
variance to the building,
No,
What
it's
I'm
doing,
saying is you're
Let's
putting in a
back up.
rental.
This is not productive.
Okay.
In theory, I'm in charge of the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a very good job of it, but, all right, so you, original owner, when was that? When did you first move in?
I'm sorry.
When did you first move in?
1997, and we bought it as residential, and over those 25 years, we've put a lot of money into this property. I'm not to have it rental in the front, and we go by that every day. We have a long driveway.
And when was the property subdivided, if you know?
Well, I bought it from the Catchmarks, he subdivided it, and then we bought a lot from him.
Can I see the covenants that you were referring to?
And we were both given, I was also given these covenants at that time.
yes.
Here, you want me to-
Nothing from C is it?
Donnie,
Okay.
For, what are you here for? All right, this is going on right now, so you're in time, you just need to sign in.
Okay.
At least I think he's okay, right?
Yeah, you can sign in.
I'll attempt to try to clarify the situation as best as I can, but, Mr. Gilman, were you aware that there were covenants on the property when you purchased it?
I was aware that covenants existed, I did not know those covenants, I was never given any of them at the time that I purchased it.
But you did get a title report or commitment from a title company
Absolutely.
when you purchased, and were you pro se handling your own closing, or did you work with an attorney?
I used an attorney.
And did you make any inquiry of him regarding what the covenants restrictions might have been?
I did not.
And do you have any reason to think that the Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions recorded as 96R 052068, do you have any reason to believe that they are not currently in effect?
I have no reason to believe that.
Kim, can you identify the reason or the purpose that we're here today?
Yes, so Mr. Gilman is correct, there is not any reclassification of zoning being proposed. The variance is for the structure to allow an additional 200 square feet of living space than what our ordinance allows for. Just to clarify, the county does not enforce any covenants or restrictions. That is done separately through a homeowners association. But our ordinance does allow for a 900 square foot, 2-bedroom ancillary dwelling with that we don't have any restrictions on who can reside in it, whether it's family or be rented out. So he's correct that if we were to deny this request, if the county were to deny the request, he still would be allowed to have the 900 square feet for a rental unit if he would like. We would issue a building permit for that. It would probably take a different avenue if you needed to address that further as far as the covenants and if he was in violation of that, but that would not be something that would be a part of the county's hearing.
If there are covenants, and there appear to be covenants and restrictions on the property, that is something that one of the homeowners could use to try to prevent him from doing what he's doing. Is that correct?
I believe so.
But that would be a separate lawsuit, a separate matter, and really is not part of this proceeding today.
Correct.
And the county normally does not take into consideration any covenants that are on the property.
Correct.
That's a private matter between the developer and the homeowners.
Yes.
Do you guys understand what the situation is?
Yes?
Okay. Is it possible to put a copy of these in the record?
Sure.
Okay.
You can have them. That's a copy, a spare copy I bought.
Thank you. And can you identify yourself, please?
Oh, my name is Dennis Zarnstorp. I'm here for,
Oh, you're here for the one that got continued.
yeah. Oh, really? I'm a little slow, so if you would talk slower, I might understand it. It got delayed?
Yes, so the request that was mailed, I'm assuming you got a letter, or did you just see the sign posted?
Just the signpost.
Okay, yeah, so the request is changing slightly from what was originally requested, so
Okay.
they've continued their hearing to another date. So we did not open the hearing today, it's gonna go to December 13th at 11 a.m.,
Okay.
okay?
And will that come back here?
Yeah, it'll be in the same room, and are you an adjacent neighbor, or
Yes.
you are directly adjacent, so you would be receiving a certified letter then, and that's when it'll be, so.
Okay. Well, it's not land that touches one another.
Oh,
But
then
if
you,
then
yeah,
I
if it
won't
doesn't
get
touch the
anything.
property, you wouldn't receive notice,
Okay,
so this is your notice,
okay.
okay?
Then, can I ask another couple of questions?
Sure.
Does this, what this is, some people bought this 5-acre, 6-acre property.
We shouldn't, okay.
Yeah, we just,
I'm told we can't go into that because it's been continued and the petitioner's not here, so,
Okay. Okay.
okay,
Yeah, I don't want to get arrested.
no.
we'll take all the questions you want to give us next time.
Well, and may I add, I've only been here like 5 minutes, but this couple seems to be very nice, so let them have what they want.
Oh, you're not asking for
We should
it.
have had this sooner.
Oh,
And yes, you will get better treatment if you bring Christmas cookies.
I can go downtown and get them. Okay.
all right.
Well, I will make a statement on the property, but the road that this is gonna go on, the gentleman who bought it, called me.
Yeah, we shouldn't, we
No.
save it for next
Got it.
next month. Thank you.
My wife has said no before, so I understand what no means. Thanks, everybody, and good luck.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a great one, and remember, overeat.
We look forward to meeting you next month.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so to try to clarify, he's got an 1,100 square foot building. If he only used 900 square feet and did God knows what with the other 200, he wouldn't really even need to be here today.
Correct, it's based on the habitable space, so if the other 200 square feet was a garage or unfinished storage area, something like that would not be counted towards the living space.
Okay, I understand that the county has changed its ordinance, but is there any limitation on how many people can live on a property that has a primary structure and then a secondary residential structure?
No, there's not a limit on the number of people, just the bedrooms.
Okay. All right, and the position of staff regarding this request?
Yes, we feel like the structure has been in existence for at least 50 years. He's not changing the look of the property or the size of the structure. By allowing this variance, we don't feel that it would have any negative impact, so we are in favor of the request.
Okay. All right, anything else that you wish to say?
No.
Okay. All right, then it is up to me to decide whether I approve or disapprove it based on the somewhat unique circumstances and the conflict between the county rules and the private restrictions. My comment would be that I'm not really able to take into consideration the private restrictions. That's a separate matter for a separate jurisdiction. The county staff is in favor of this. It is a fairly minor request to go from the 900 feet to the 1,100. If I were to deny it, he could still do what he wants to do without any requirement of the county approving it. He does have to meet with the health department to get the necessary approval for the septic system. It is a bit of a challenge due to the topography, but it apparently can be done. So I would be in favor of this request. You need to understand that if you're neighbors who are here today do not like this decision, that they do have the ability to attempt to enforce the restrictions which appear to be in effect.
I understand that.
Okay. So good luck to all of you.
Thank you for your time.